Hello, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. The lost opportunities to catch serial killer Stephen Port. An inquest jury concludes police failings probably contributed to the death of his third victim, Kent chef Daniel Whitworth.
There aren't words good enough for it, but they were incompetent over and over and over again.
No place to call home this Christmas. The rising tide of evictions as families struggle to make ends meet. Brighton and Hove, one of the worst affected areas.
So we're seeing brand new faces, people that have never been homeless in their life before. And we're also seeing people that have been homeless for a long, long time back on the streets.
Hey, it's Ronan Keating here, and I will be touring somewhere near you very soon.
We catch up with the former Boyzone frontman back on tour after more than 25 years in the business.
And see a Kent town lit up with homemade lanterns for a Christmas parade.
Good evening to you. An inquest has concluded that police failings probably contributed to the death of Daniel Whitworth, a talented young chef from Kent who was the third of 4 gay men murdered by serial killer Stephen Port.
Daniel from Dartford was 21 when Port killed him with a fatal drug overdose in 2014. His body was dumped in a churchyard with a suicide note forged by Port but believed by police. It was one of many mistakes by police that left Port free to kill again and again in strikingly similar circumstances without officers connecting the cases.
After the inquest today, this statement from the lawyer for the victims' families.
The inadequate investigation by the Metropolitan Police into the deaths of Anthony, Gabriel, Daniel and Jack should be on public record as one of the most widespread institutional failings in modern history. The jury have been unanimous in identifying fundamental failings and basic errors in the investigation into Anthony's death, which meant that Port was not stopped and was allowed to carry on with his terrible acts. Based on the treatment we received, our firmly held belief is that the Metropolitan Police's actions were, in part, driven by homophobia. Had 4 white heterosexual girls been found in the same manner as Anthony, Gabriel, Daniel and Jack, then the police's actions and the likely outcomes would have been different.
Tony Green has been speaking to Daniel Whitworth's family and reports now on the background to the case.
Talented chef Daniel Whitworth's life was cut short at 21. In December 2014, he was found dead in a churchyard. He'd overdosed on the drug GHB. Detectives thought he was a victim of his lifestyle. In fact, he was the third victim of serial killer Stephen Port. Daniel's father, Adam, and stepmother, Mandy from Greenhithe, were told for a year by police that Daniel had killed himself. That wasn't the Daniel they knew.
I came into Daniel's life when he was all grown up, really. I mean, none of our children are perfect. They all put you through it when the mood takes them. But he was a good lad.
He was at catering college, at the catering jobs at Canary Wharf and in London, and had a bright future with him in that career, you know. So, yeah, I was proud of that.
Port used dating apps and date rape drugs to find and kill young men. He was jailed for life in 2019. The murders of Anthony Walgate, Gabriel Cavari, Daniel Whitworth and Jack Taylor were examined in an inquest that looked at the Met Police investigation, which initially didn't link the deaths.
Their performance was incompetent. There aren't words good enough for it, but they were incompetent over and over and over again.
It started with Anthony, and those failings with Anthony just snowballed into this.
I don't think it's an institutional thing myself, but I'm amazed how there's so many different individuals all through this who have done appalling things.
We've lost a life. That's all we need, you know. We've lost an only son and somebody who was going places.
They all thought they were the big authority figure to be taken seriously, and we meekly, took them at their word and thought they were the real deal. You're the experts, you do it. And they didn't do it.
Since the murders, the Borough Police has been restructured.
I think that it's clear that at the time we could and should have done a better job. I think that across the whole of the Metropolitan Police, there are checks and balances in place to ensure, or to try as best we can to ensure that we don't make the same mistakes again. Those are in place, but I cannot promise that something similar will not happen again.
I would like to think that Daniel is one of the 4 that brought about real change. It's such a waste of life, such a pointless death. It can't be in vain. It's a clever lad.
Even before the inquest ended, the Met vowed to review any improvements to win back confidence in their competence. But for 4 young men and their families, it's too late. Tony Green, ITV News.
That's a lovely picture.
Very sad indeed. Well, meanwhile, Kent Police have dropped a criminal investigation into the standard of maternity care at East Kent hospitals. The Trust was ordered to pay more than £700,000 for failures in the case of Harry Richford, who died in 2017. The force said there was no realistic prospect of conviction against any individual or organisation.
2 people charged with the murder of a man in Tunbridge Wells have appeared in court today. 25-year-old Chauvin Pepage was found with stab wounds on Cayley Road early on Saturday morning. Kieran Stewart, who's 18 and from Curtis Road in Hornchurch, and a 17-year-old boy from Ilford have also been charged with conspiring to commit robbery. They've been remanded in custody and will next appear on the 6th of January. 3 other men from Essex have also been charged with conspiracy to commit robbery.
Health inspectors have ordered the University Hospital Sussex NHS Foundation Trust to make immediate improvements to maternity and surgical services. It follows complaints by patients and whistleblowers and unannounced Care Quality Commission inspections at the Royal Sussex in Brighton, Worthing Hospital, the Princess Royal in Haywards Heath and St Richard's in Chichester. Well, the Trust says it has taken urgent action to make the recommended improvements and has plans in place to address issues that require a longer-term approach.
The charity Shelter estimates that a staggering 1 in 78 people in Brighton and Hove are homeless as the country faces a rising tide of evictions and many families an uncertain winter.
Well, the city now has the 3rd highest figures in England. Shelter warning that with COVID protections gone, thousands more could join those on the streets. Well, in a moment, we'll hear from the charity. But first, a report from Andy Dickinson.
Brian worked in construction for 25 years. He's disabled and has been sleeping rough on the streets of Brighton for 7 months. He's just one of so many.
I was married, I've got 3 kids, they live in Lincoln. But she's got no boyfriend and don't let me see them. And the house got repossessed. So I came here from Bedford, my hometown, and I've been here ever since. When you're wet and cold, you've got to stay in the same clothes, do you know what I mean? And people here steal all your things as well, so it's not nice. How do I feel about it? Well, I'll get used to it. Do you know what I mean? I have to get used to it, don't I? I have to take whatever comes to me, you know?
Through wet nights and cold days, the homeless population of this city, far from reducing because of lockdown services, only seems to have grown. And it's not just the visible, the rough sleepers, there's the invisible homeless, sofa surfers and those struggling to pay the rent.
So we're seeing brand new faces, people that have never been homeless in their life before. And we're also seeing people that have been homeless for a long, long time back on the streets as the facilities that they've been getting closed down. It's a massive issue. Food poverty, children food poverty, food banks. This is all one crisis, not one homeless crisis. Really, if anything, it needs a new triage system where people are triaged on the first day of being homeless.
1 in 78 is far too many people. 1 person is far too many. What we do need to see, though, is a massive investment in social housing, not the so-called affordable housing that has been government policy for a number of years, but truly affordable housing, council houses, for example, at sufficient numbers.
Of the 274,000 people homeless in England, Shelter says almost half are children. A terrifying statistic experts fear could even get worse. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Brighton.
Well, joining me is Chris Wood, the Director of Policy for Shelter. Now, Mr. Wood, thousands of homeless people were taken off the streets during the early months of the pandemic, and as a result were seen by social services for the first time in many cases. It was seen as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fix homelessness. Yet here we are with today's statistics. Why? What's gone wrong?
Well, that's right. Last year, huge efforts were made by charities, local authorities and central government to get people off the streets, often for the first time. But ultimately, the issue is we haven't tackled the reasons why people become homeless. So some of those people are back on the streets and other people have become homeless. And of course, homelessness is wider than just rough sleeping. It's people sleeping in their cars or in temporary accommodation. We need the government to step in and build the homes that people can afford and that they know they can stay in. And that means building more social housing across the country. In the meantime, we're here at Shelter to help anyone who needs our help because of the public support. So contact us if you're struggling, if you know anyone who is struggling.
I mean, charity and charities like you are very, very important, because what impact does homelessness have on mental health and drink and drug addiction?
Well, rough sleeping is obviously the most acute form of homelessness, and that is extremely traumatic for people. It can cause or exacerbate mental health issues or substance abuse issues, and ultimately the life expectancy of street homeless people, if you're on the streets, is much lower than the general population. So it has huge impacts on people and their families, and we need the government to step in and tackle that.
We say we need the government, but there isn't the money out there to have all this social housing. What can be done? What can be done as soon as possible before this problem escalates even further?
Well, we need the government to step in this winter, as they did last year, and make sure everyone is brought off the streets. And that means making sure councils are accommodating everybody who needs help and a roof over their heads. But we also do need them to set out that long-term plan, because we won't solve homelessness without more homes. So if we built those homes, we would not just tackle homelessness across the country, but also the wider housing crisis, because there's lots of people struggling, renting, or on the verge of homelessness that need help too.
Chris Wood from Shelter, very good to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you for choosing us. Coming up, lifting the weight of 4 washing machines. No, not me. An army veteran from Medway is crowned the world's strongest disabled man.
And after joining the band Boyzone at the age of 16, Ronan Keating on preparing to go back on tour across the south.
And you can find more on today's top stories in our region throughout the day and evening on our website, itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on this number, 0808 1010 095. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.
Now, new research shows 80% of disabled people would like to be more active, but only 30% feel they have the opportunity to be as active as they want to be.
Well, as part of our series of reports marking UK Disability History Month, Catherine Walker's been looking at the different barriers disabled people face when it comes to getting fit.
We all know that staying active is important for our mental and physical health. But Kate in Brighton says it's difficult for her and other disabled people to access mainstream gyms and fitness classes.
I would say the biggest barrier to exercising would be the accessibility of many gyms. A lot of them have stairs. A lot of them begin by saying they'll get a lift, but then never installing one.
Under the Equality Act, gyms and leisure centres must make reasonable adjustments for all their members. But in practice, research shows disabled people still find it difficult to access fitness. A survey from the Activity Alliance found that 80% of disabled people want to be more active, but only 30% feel they have the opportunity to be as active as they want. Just half agree they feel welcome in sport and activity settings.
I would really love to see gyms and fitness centres just think about accessibility much more and think about the type of equipment that they have and actually how different people can actually move around, their premises and use their equipment. There are so many disabled people that want to work out, that want to work on their physical and mental well-being, but aren't allowed to at the moment because they're just not being let in.
Have you got my chair? Yeah.
James works as a personal trainer specialising in disability. He joined the fitness industry after developing dystonia, a condition that affects his speech and movement. He wants more personal trainers to educate themselves about disability.
It is getting better, but I think a lot more
needs to be done. I think TTs and churches need to do a bit of research and learn how to adapt kids. And that's the only way the coach will understand and be more confident in coaching disabilities.
Former client Sophie agrees. She says accessibility is about physical and mental barriers.
I think some people are under the assumption that you put a ramp in place and that makes that space accessible. But accessibility is so much more than just a physical ramp. It's how you feel when you're in that environment. So I think instructors, gym owners, they should make the additional effort to just make people feel very welcome as a disabled person, and also expand their knowledge on disability too.
Everyone deserves a chance to exercise and stay active. The message from Sophie and James is clear. The smallest changes can have the biggest impact. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Now, after a year of lockdowns and social distancing, one town in Kent has decided to light up the festive season.
Yes, hundreds are expected to turn out for New Romney's Lantern Parade this evening. Well, our reporter Abigail Bracken is there for us now. And Abigail, it looks like it's going to be quite a spectacle.
It certainly is. Here you can see just a small selection of some of the very many hundreds of homemade lanterns here spelling New Romney, and they're going to be parading through New Romney this evening in a parade that last year was cancelled and became a virtual parade. This year it's very much on. And now the organiser, Caroline, what made you think of this idea?
Well, New Romney had been quite a sad place in the winter. We hadn't had a late night shopping or Christmas event for over 10 years, and the community spirit was really lacking. So together with a small team of dedicated volunteers, we came up with the idea of a Christmas lantern parade because we wanted to kickstart late night shopping and encourage people to shop local.
And the whole community has become involved in making these lanterns.
Very much so. We've run a series of 6 free lantern making workshops, and we were able to do that because we received some funding from the Kent Community Foundation that enabled us to run our workshops for free, so they were accessible to everyone.
Fabulous. Well, good luck with the parade. And it's not just the parade here tonight. There's a Christmas market and there's also late night shopping, which is something of a bonus for some of the many businesses that have been struck by COVID this year. And you're one of the business owners here. You run the pet shop on the a pet shop on the high street. What does it mean to you to be able to have this kind of festive event?
It just brings so much excitement, brings so many people in from towns and villages surrounding us, and at a time when never it's been more important to stay local and shop small.
Thank you so much, Louise. Now, in just a few minutes' time, some of these beautiful homemade lanterns will be parading down the high street towards the church, and then everyone can go off for a spot of Christmas shopping.
Sounds wonderful, Abigail. Thank you very much. I'm feeling very festive myself. That looks good, doesn't it? Sold millions both as part of the boy band Boyzone and as a solo artist.
Now, Ronan Keating has a new album and he's planning a tour next month, which will see him visit venues across the UK, including Brighton and Southend.
Yes, and as he told Kevin Ashford, he can't wait to get back out on the road after COVID.
At home, pretend the internet does not exist. This music tells me it's a...
Radio presenting is just one of the many strings to Ronan Keating's bow, but it's performing music that's his biggest love.
For the sun, for the light, for the rain, for the
His latest solo album explores his Irish roots. It's music, he says, he listened to extensively during lockdown. And he's about to start touring again, which still thrills him after all these years.
I joined Boyzone when I was 16 years of age to be a performer, to be on stage and perform. You don't think about the fame or anything else, that all came next. So yeah, I've missed that massively. And maybe it's an ego thing as well. Maybe we've all kind of, we've missed the feeling that it gives you. It's exhilarating, it's an incredible feeling and a buzz. So yeah, I can't wait to get back on the road.
At their height, Boyzone were a huge act with a worldwide following. They finally said goodbye to their fans with a farewell tour in 2019, after 25 years as a band.
We saw it all. We saw those mad moments when you land in an airport, like in Jakarta in Indonesia, and they have to close the airport because there's so many people waiting. The army have to pick us up from the plane and drive us to our hotel. Like mad, crazy stuff that, you know, you see in Beatles documentaries that actually we were part of for a minute. So yeah, like it was crazy, and you know, the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows that come with records and releases, and but yes, to still be around and somewhat relevant is nice.
Ronan Keating's tour of the UK begins next month. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
He does have a very good voice.
Still
He hasn't lost it. He's still got it. Now, Holly's here with us, and it's a beautiful day, so lovely sunshine around. Are we going to have some more of that?
Well, there's a little bit more tomorrow, but I'm afraid it is on its way out.
That's a no then.
No, yeah, big no.
But make the most of tomorrow morning, and also make the most of probably our last starry skied night for a little while as well. But I thought we could take a look at some of the nice things you may well be able to spot tonight in the night sky. Okay, take a look at this photo. This came in from Roy Venkatesh. So, if you look west at the moment, you should be able to see the brightest thing in the sky, Venus, down at the bottom right there. Then in this little string edging up to the top left of the picture, you can see Saturn in the middle, and then the second brightest thing in the sky is Jupiter. So you should be able to see that lining up like a little string of Christmas lights at the moment. So you need to look westwards. Another photo here from, oh sorry, I skipped through. But yeah, so lovely scene there if you look westwards at the moment.
Do you know what I'd really like to see?
What would you like to see?
A meteor shower. Any chance?
Well, do you know, just for you, I've got one lined up.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Take a look at this. Technically, it's peaking early next week, but tonight probably your best chance of viewing it. The unusual thing about the Geminids is it can be colourful. So normally they're white, but these can be yellow, green, red, blue, and it's also thought that they're intensifying each year. So as I say, a chance of viewing those potentially tonight, that's going to be your best weather-wise window, I think. But yeah, some really interesting things going on at the moment.
So tonight's the night?
I think so, Freddie. But yes, tending to go downhill, really. I think
downhill all the way.
Although it is getting milder, so if you like it milder, Freddie, this is for you.
I do like it milder. Here she is with your forecast, Holly Green.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Temperatures falling away out there underneath starry skies. Tonight is a chilly one. Tomorrow starts quite chilly as well. Perhaps a bit of a disappointing day. Bright at first, but cloud thickens. It may well turn a bit murky, some outbreaks of rain feeding in, but then much milder into Saturday night and Sunday. So the bigger picture shows a weather front out to the east that cleared through early on. Now we're in this chilly northwesterly flow, but you can see this milder air edging across us later on tomorrow. It's in place for a few days really, but some weather fronts in the vicinity bringing outbreaks of rain at times. And in general, this air mass is just a bit on the claggy side. But that is not the case at the moment. Clear skies, as I say, temperatures falling away. We may well see some frost values, for some falling down to around -1 or -2, although we do see a little bit of high-level cloud feeding in later on in the night, which may see some of our temperatures recovering a little towards dawn. I think though some brightness into tomorrow morning, but gradually we'll start to find some high-level cloud feeding in, and it thickens and lowers as we head through the day. The further east you are, the longer of course you hang on to those brighter skies. Temperatures will be chilly at first, but it does turn milder later on. You can see there's some outbreaks of rain starting to spill in, and also later on we could well see some poor visibilities developing too. High tide times. You've got Dover at 4 o'clock in the morning and 4:51 into the afternoon. So yes, later on Saturday, some outbreaks of rain, some poor visibilities, mild into Saturday night. Sunday will be very mild. Look at that, 13 degrees, but quite cloudy, perhaps a bit of drizzle in place as well. And then we keep this mild theme as we head into the beginning of next week.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So looking forward to Tuesday then. Well, in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Stacey Bull's got our late news, and don't forget bulletins throughout the weekend here on ITV Meridian. But in the meantime, from the whole team here, thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend and take care from all of us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.